So today, Christian McCaffrey tweets out, very tough decision, but I've decided not to play in the Sun Bowl so I can begin my draft prep immediately. Thanks for all my teammates for their 100% support. It means a lot to me. Go Cardinal. Christian McCaffrey, of course, a Heisman Trophy finalist 2 times over, son of a former NFL player, likely to be a high-round draft choice, first or second round, appears to be, like, is it too simple to say he's going to be a future Patriot, right? Versatile player, white dude, really, really good. I mean, feels too easy to say that. But McCaffrey is catching a little bit more heat. And the logical reason is kind of 2 or 3-fold. By my estimation, the entire offense is built around him. Though it's the Sun Bowl and it's not one of the elite New Year's Six Bowl. Sun Bowl is on CBS, I should point out. And he, unlike Fournette, is completely healthy, although I do believe that Fournette's I'm going to rest my ankle thing is a bunch of BS, just like I still think that Christian McCaffrey isn't saying what he's really doing. I've decided not to play in the Sun Bowl so I can begin my draft prep. That just means I don't want to play for fear of injury, right? Why not just say, I don't want to play for fear of injury? And, of course, this brings us back to the Jalen Smith injury last year when Notre Dame was playing Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. Jalen Smith suffered just a terrible knee injury, and a surefire first-round pick ends up going in the second round, has been on IR all year, will remain on IR all year, and that because he suffered nerve damage during the injury, there's no telling whether or not he'll ever be back to anywhere near the player that he once was. Now, Christian McCaffrey did have an injury policy, although those policies, it's really hard to collect on them because depending on how they're written, he would only collect the $5 million if he never played a down of football ever again and he got hurt in his last football game. And there is some precedence for this, not just guys sitting out, but guys not playing hard. I tweeted out Emmitt Smith's last game at Florida was played in the now-defunct Freedom Bowl at Anaheim Stadium in front of 33,000 people against Washington. He had just 17 yards on 7 carries, and the Washington players said he didn't look like he wanted to be out there. And Emmitt Smith's one of the all-time greats. Barry Sanders, on the other hand, had an incredible final game in the Holiday Bowl where he had over 200 yards rushing in the first half against Wyoming. So there is no kind of correlation between whether or not you play in your last game and how you'll do as a pro. And I'm not trying to make that argument. Nor would I make the argument that not playing in your last game will hurt your draft stock. I don't really believe that. I believe that football players are generally drafted based upon whether or not they can, in fact, play the position, how many downs they can play on, can they understand a playbook. And then, of course, I do think there's the question of will a guy compete? Will he compete when things go bad? But I don't think that's really the case with Fournette or definitely not Christian McCaffrey. Right? Like, he didn't stop playing when Stanford's season appeared to be over very early in the year when they lost a couple of games, did he? No. So this isn't even, to me, about competitive drive or about hurting your draft stock. It is, on the other hand, about a bigger picture. Will this become a trend? Look, I don't like it because I don't like the idea that the entire summer, the entire preseason, you talk about finishing and being part of a brotherhood. And for Stanford, for example, they turned around their season and went from, boy, Stanford's fallen off with David Shaw not recruiting. What's going on? To, damn, they won nine games. That became the best win on Washington's schedule. And to fight through all of that and to say, I love my brothers and I love the guys at Stanford, and to say, I love the fact we stuck with David Shaw and he stuck with us, we kept the game plan, and then, but this last time, it's about me, is a selfish act. Now, look, you're allowed to be selfish. You just are. And I'm allowed to not like it. And I'm allowed to call you selfish. But I do think that the idea that he's putting himself in harm's way is more fiction than fact. It just is. Because you can count on one hand over the last 25 years the number of career-ending injuries that happen in bowl games. One hand. Willis McGahee's knee bent the wrong way in the national championship game, and he had quite a productive NFL career, his first-round pick. Right? Like the Jalen Smith thing, and I think he'll have an NFL career, but I don't know. That's like 1 of 4 or 5. Don't start with the Marcus Lattimore thing because he actually hurt his knee twice. Not once, twice. And none of it was in a bowl game. Couldn't make it through the season. I understand that running back is a position which the value of it declines. It's like a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, all of a sudden the value starts to decline. And once you get to 30, you're kind of done unless you're Frank Gore, who, by the way, doesn't have any ACLs, and it doesn't seem to matter. He's a unicorn. But just like Jalen Smith's a unicorn, so is he a unicorn. The truth is somewhere in the middle. The question becomes, is this a trend? Is it a trend like going for 2 and going for it on 4th down in the NFL has become a trend? It's the question that we don't have an answer for with Major League Baseball. What was the story of this postseason? It was some managers choosing to use their bullpen, their closer, as early as the 7th inning or even earlier in the Indians' case. While old school guys like Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker, Buck Showalter had the best closer in baseball, and Zach Britton never got out there in a game, in a series-deciding game. By the way, Zach Britton's still available to pitch if anybody needs him today. Like, is this going to be a trend? And to anyone who says, well, yes, it is, or no, it's not, you don't know that because, let's see. Jalen Smith got hurt last year. Leonard Fournette has decided to not play. Christian McCaffrey decided not to play. Myles Garrett just tweeted out he will practice, he will play. And he's had an injured season. He may well be a top 5 pick, and it's at a different position. But right now, you're struggling to build a trend. Like, it's obvious there's a trend in the NBA of small balls. Kind of started with the Mavericks, then it went to the Suns, now perfected by the Warriors, and everybody's copying it. It's also the ball movement that started with the Spurs and went on to the Warriors as well. Like, offense has become trending. The players you pick, NBA guys taking 3-and-D guys, that becomes trendy. So I get the question of today is this a trend or are these exceptions? And the rule is you want to play it out. You want to finish. And you also want to finish because, yes, these are exhibition games. And no, they technically don't matter, but most games don't matter. Like, if you're going to say that, well, why would you play if you're going to risk injury? Why would any of these football players that are prospects play after they lose their 2nd game of the year and you're not going to play for national championship? What's the point then? The point's then to play, to compete. You know, this has always been my point about not playing in college when you're a basketball player or paying a guy in college. Where does it end? Do you start paying guys when they're in high school? So I am pro-play. Pro-play. I understand. I get how how people can overreact, and there's fear of injury, and I don't understand why I got to go play this game. I think there's a gray area to which you can go to your coaching staff and say, hey, man, listen, coach, I really, really I've loved playing for you, loved competing for you. I am a little concerned about injury. What can we do heading into the bowl game? And most of these coaches are sensible people. Some of them will have you go in there and get 1 carry and then check out of the game, or 5 carries, or work with you, or they'll have you practice with your team knowing full well you're not going to go, and then game time decision, you got some sort of injury. But I think kind of doing the public tweeting out, I'm not going to play, I'm going to do draft prep, I don't love it. I don't like it. And I do think it goes against what many of the principles of what football teams are built upon, which is, hey, we're in this together. I'm a left guard. I'm a starting center. I've got no glory at all for the last 2 years of blocking for Christian McCaffrey. He gets all the glory by like 75% of the offense runs through him. Now, all of a sudden, we get to our one last game, and he's going to ditch us? Like, doesn't feel all in. It should be pointed out, one of the wide receivers for Stanford tweeted out, hey, we're 100% behind him.